And we welcome you inside the Carson Student Athletes Center at the Schaefer Sports Hall of Fame here on the campus of Arizona State University. It's Son of a Extra with Graham Rossini, presented by Spring Hill Suites, Phoenix, Scottsdale. I'm Braiden Bell. He's Graham Rossini, and what a weekend it was for Arizona State athletics. We'll touch on all the great performances throughout the week. First off, every team sport went undefeated this past week here on campus, but let's touch on football. The season opener, a 48-7 thrashing of Wyoming. It was a great crowd at Mountain America Stadium, and really just a great overall start to year two of the Kenny Dillingham era.
Yeah, what a fun weekend. What great energy all over campus, really. You talk about a number of our sports. I know we'll talk about that in a moment. But, yeah, the energy in the football stadium was electric right out the gate. And student section setting the tone. Second best crowd all time in ASU history. Really proud of the student turnout. And, you know, Kenny talked a lot about that postgame of the energy in the stadium was material to that kind of a win. And we've talked a lot about driving game day experience because that's what can happen when people are fired up cheering on for the Sun Devils. So very exciting out the gate, and we're officially underway.
The college football offseason is so long, and you could almost feel the energy in the stadium. Like you said, people were waiting to explode. Well, they got to cheer less than a minute into the game with a pick six.
Yeah. So
an unbelievable start, and the defense for the football team was so good on Saturday. The total yardage amounts by the end of it, 499 to 118, and Wyoming had 74 yards on their final drive when it was already 48-0. So it was a dominant performance on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Really good stuff.
Yeah, really crisp, really well played football, really entertaining style of play. And the defense set the tone right out the gate, there's no doubt. We may have a cameo off camera right now.
Yeah.
Pop in, Scat. How are you?
Cam Scadaboo joining us here live.
Man of the people right here.
Well, yeah, let's ask Scat about this. I mean, it was a dominant performance on both sides of the ball. How much fun was it to get out there and perform the way you guys did on both sides?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think the guys came together. We didn't have it as much last year. The guys were super selfish. I think the guys that kind of turned it around and, played for each other instead of for themselves, and, I mean, it worked out,
There's a buzz around campus before Mississippi State, SEC opponent coming in, going to hopefully break the student section record as well. How excited is this building right now leading into week two?
Yeah, I mean, we're all juiced up. ASU's never been an SEC opponent, so here's a chance to do it, and I think all the guys are focused, and it's a good opportunity to show what we're about, going into the SEC and playing an SEC football team. So we're going to show what we have, and we're going to play to our best, and, everyone's going to give everything they got for each other.
Big-time stable of running backs led by this guy right here, Cam Scadaboo, an impromptu visit. This is why we do it here at the Hall of Fame. Scott, thanks for stopping by.
Of course, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, that was unexpected, awesome, but great.
Yeah.
Yes. Hear from one of the stars of the offense, and let's talk about the offense. 241 rushing yards.
Yep.
Just 41 allowed, so that's nearly plus 200 in that department, dominating the lines of scrimmage.
Sure.
Coach Dillingham talked about that and how that was a big difference in game one, but from your perspective, it was awfully impressive.
It was really impressive, and being A, healthy, and B, a lot more athletic. I mean, both were very noticeable this weekend. Just the style of football that we played, the fact that Scott is getting out of the game in the third quarter, usually a good indication when your frontline guys and first teamers are going to get out of there. We want to keep them fresh, keep them ready for the next week. But usually if we're making that kind of a substitution or play call, things are going well. And what I'm most proud about with Scott is after the game, it's probably hour 15 after the game at that point, and I'm walking back to the office from the football facility, and Cam's there with maybe a dozen people, signing autographs, taking photos. He's taking off wristbands. He's taking off socks at one point and just giving them to kids in the stadium. And I just stopped to admire it because that's what it's all about. We've talked a lot about getting kids and families on campus into our stadiums and arenas. And when you've got a team leader, hour after the game, interacting with fans, signing every last autograph, like what an incredibly proud moment for ASU.
Might just be an armband for Scat, but for that kid, It's going to be something he remembers.
Forget it.
Exactly.
Those kids will remember that interaction for the rest of their lives. And we're in the business of winning games. That's the part of what this environment's all about. But more importantly, we're in an environment where we can make memories that stay with the family for life, and I think we're able to do that this weekend.
One more note on football before we move on to volleyball's performance over the weekend. Everyone pays attention to QB1, of course, and Sam Levitt was making his debut as the Sun Devils starter. I thought he did a really phenomenal job overall in that game, was able to show his awareness outside of the pocket, distribute the ball to playmakers. The offense led by Levitt looked really good, and people are excited about this team now. It's like you said, there's a buzz. There already was, but it's more noticeable now, it seems.
Yeah, and credit to Sam. Just he was what he's advertised to be: very poised, very present, very collected, very accurate, and a leader on the field. And so for him, young in his career, to be able to step into a moment like that and execute, again, a lot to be proud of.
We might have to keep the show here, see what other players will stop by in weeks to come. But let's move on now to volleyball. It was their opening weekend, and a 3-0 weekend. In fact, only losing one set, 3-1 over Butler, and then 3-set sweeps against Lipscomb and Cal Baptist as well. Obviously, a lot of hype around this team, preseason ranked, expected to be amongst the best in the Big 12, but an impressive start for Coach Van Niel and the Sun Devil volleyball program.
Yeah, really, really a great way to start. 3-0, I think 9-1 in sets over the course of the three games as well, and on the road. And we've inherited a lot of schedules that were put in motion. Long term, the goal is to have more non-conference volleyball matches at home, in Desert Financial Arena, in Mullet Arena. But JJ is up for the task of let's open up on the road. That's the reality of the schedule that he inherited. And so 3 consecutive weeks on the road, really great to start out 3-0, get back home for some quality workouts this week, and then they'll be back on the road later this week. But yeah, really excited. I mean, a lot of roster turnover in volleyball, but there's a core that's been here for the last couple of years. And you look at Jelly Sear, you look at Claire Jeter and some of the standout performances that happened this weekend. They've been a part of this leadership team for a couple years now, and for them to be at the moment where they're able to lead the team and have also grown into these incredibly talented players on the floor, really, really strong start, 3-0, and moving up the rankings, which you always like to see.
You love to see that, and as you mentioned, on the road again this weekend, but on the West Coast in San Diego, they'll see Santa Barbara, I should say, along with USD and then St. John's this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, and a good test. I mean, USD 2 years off of a Final Four appearance in volleyball as well, and that'll be a good test out the gate. And then the ultimate test next weekend when they go to Lincoln and compete against Nebraska. We'll get a chance, I'm sure, to talk about that as well. But yeah, we're underway in a lot of our sports and really having some success too.
Let's talk about the Nebraska match coming up then. We're going to wait for segment 2, but that's one of those marquee matchups early on in the athletic season that I think everyone kind of has circled. Of course, Nebraska volleyball, such a storied program, one of the dominant forces in the sport. The opportunity to kind of go out there and try to prove your worth against one of the nation's best.
Yeah, I credit our head coaches in the scheduling philosophy that a lot of them take. We talked about it last week with Coach Dillingham and then also with Coach Hurley on just wanting these non-conference challenging slates to really understand where are we as a program. And Coach Van Niel and his coaching staff are no different of, we have championship aspirations and we're not trying to pad a resume or stack a bunch of wins that we can use come tournament selection time. We want to understand early in the season, what do our coaches need to put more time and energy in? And I think there's so much value over the course of a long competitive season when you have coaches that understand we're here to help the team perform at their highest level. They're already great. We want to give them the tools to be even greater. You can do that when you get the lessons learned early on in terms of where are we at, where do we need to make a lineup adjustment, where do we need to tweak some mechanics, knowing that the Big 12 is going to be very competitive as we get into that. And so, being on the road, playing schools like San Diego, Nebraska next weekend, it really does give us a good baseline on where are we at, not only in this particular season, but also as a program, and understanding the kind of athletes that they're recruiting, how they coach those programs, what the environment that they're able to compete is, and all that is informative to where we're trying to go with ASU.
And it's exciting for fans.
Absolutely.
It's exactly what you want to see from a fan base perspective as well.
Sure.
I agree with you totally on that. Now over to soccer, a 2-0 week, shutting out Grambling and Penn. A very exciting performance over the weekend. Kiera Blundell, a hat trick, just the 14th in program history.
Amazing.
Now 4-0-2 on the season, and it's been pretty dominant, outscoring opponents 17-3 so far through the first 6 matches. Very, very impressive stuff for Coach Winkworth and the soccer program as well. I mean, the wins all around campus, like we said.
Yeah, and that sport probably the opposite, where they've had a lot of home matches early. And as everybody knows, it's hot right now. We're not quite yet in fall, even though we're in September. And what I admire a lot about women's soccer is the athleticism of that sport, in particular with our team, where Sunday afternoon it's a 1:00 game against Penn. We were out there. It was probably 105 degrees at the end of the game, and they were playing every last second to get to that 90-minute whistle, and with success. And so to have a hat trick in that relentless sun and elements, this team is conditioned. They're ready to compete. They're ready to play. They've been well prepared for this non-conference slate. get a little bit of a spell this week before Utah Tech on Sunday, and then they're right in the conference slate a week from now. And so really winding down that non-conference, a lot of momentum as they start, I think, with BYU next week, opening up the Big 12, and really prepared to take this on. So a lot to be encouraged out. Out the gate, a lot of our teams having success, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, as he mentioned, last non-conference match at home Sunday, 1 o'clock, Utah Tech, before they get things going in Big 12 play against a solid BYU program as well. Well, first segment done. Coming up next, we'll be hearing from men's golf coach Matt Thurmond as he will join us here inside the Carson Student Athlete Center. That and more when we come back on the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. Welcome back to Sun Devil Extra, presented by Spring Hill Suites, Phoenix, Scottsdale, and we're now joined by the head coach of Arizona State men's golf, Matt Thurmond. First off, Coach, thanks for joining us down here, and right away you get to see the program history you guys have here in the Carson Student Athlete Center and the wonderful dynasty that you guys have built over time. I mean, how excited are you to get this season started?
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. We got another awesome team. Two superstars that most people know, and Preston Summerhays and Josele Ballester. And, we're standing in front of these legends. John Rahm was out at practice with us this week, played with the team. These guys know they have big shoes to fill and many years of success in front of them, so they're excited to see if they can keep building on the legacy.
Let's talk about a couple of those superstars you have on your team. Obviously, Josele and what he was able to do before the season started, and Preston as well. Help us understand, from people that might not follow your program up close and personal, how those two guys compare to really the wonderful names. You mentioned John Rahm, obviously Phil Mickelson, so many names over the course of this program's history. How do you think those two could stack up to the other legends?
Yeah, if you just, sometimes you don't realize how good the ones are that you currently have compared to the legends, but Preston Summerhays is currently ranked number 6 in the world. He's a first-team All-American. There's only been 20 different people that have been first-team All-Americans in our program's history. He is currently the number 1 ranked senior in college golf, and he's number 1 in the PGA Tour U ranking. So if he finishes off the year well, he will be headed straight to the PGA Tour. Preston, so he's won a lot. Josele Ballester, he's from Spain. Josele has a chance to be, if he's an All-American this year, which I think it looks pretty good, he will be only the 6th four-time All-American in our program's history.
Wow. 3
Americans, 3 Spaniards if that happens. So it's a continental battle there. Josele just won the U.S. Amateur, became the 4th ever Sun Devil to do so, following Billy Mayfair, Phil Mickelson, and Jeff Quinney. So it had been 24 years. Preston is a U.S. junior amateur champion. So these guys are among the very, very best we've ever had. And I think 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we'll be talking about them like we talk about John and Phil.
Talk about Preston as well. He's also one of the best student athletes in terms of what he can do academically as well, in really this entire athletic department. How proud does that make you as his coach?
Pretty proud. I mean, he's funny because he performs so well. I don't know that he is the most academic type, but he gets the job done, and I think it's a sign of kind of who he is as a person. Josele is also a very good student. Our team actually has a 3.7 team GPA. Our guys graduate, and for all of them, golf is, I don't know if I'm even supposed to say this, but golf is 1A and school is 2B. It's 1B, not 2B. And but they just do a good job. I mean, it's the kind of guys they are. They show up to class, they turn in their stuff, they talk about what they're learning, and they graduate and do a great job. You
mentioned Josele Ballester, and let's touch on what that meant, winning the U.S. Amateur Open, and obviously you mentioned just the 4th Sun Devil all-time to do it, but also, there's so many things to go along with that besides just the trophy and the recognition and all of the buzz around it. But an exception now to compete in the British Open, the Masters, the U.S. Open next year. What did that mean for your program, not only just for Josele, but for the future in terms of recruiting and everything that goes along with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. In pro golf, you have arguments of which is the biggest event. Is it the Masters? Is it the U.S. Open, British Open? But in amateur golf, there is no question. The U.S. Amateur is by far the biggest event in amateur golf. Many people say it's the most difficult golf tournament to win because of stroke play and then 6 rounds of match play. But incredible performance by Josele, first ever to do it from Spain. And I think we're just kind of learning what comes with it. Last week they sent pictures of his locker at Hazeltine where they made him an honorary member for life.
Wow.
So he can go there whenever he wants and play, and has a locker there. He's got, his memorabilia is already up in their Hall of Fame and all that. That's a big deal. He's playing in the Masters, the U.S. Open, the British Open. And he has been basically doing this nonstop. He's got interviews all over the world right now, pretty much every day.
Let me ask you that final round.
Yeah.
You know, when he clinches it, and it was pretty tight all the way through. You know, you're sitting there watching one of your student athletes win such a big tournament, like you said, the undisputed biggest crown in amateur golf. What was that like for you?
Well, I got to be there. I went there for the last 2 days, and the crowd was very heavily on the side of the Iowa player.
Yep.
And I mean, literally like 1,000 to 1. And even those of us who were cheering to Jose, like for Jose, like even if we cheered a little, like it would get drowned out. So it was like, make sure you know we're here. But it was a very hostile environment for him, kind of a Ryder Cup atmosphere. And to see him hold up was awesome. He had talked to Sergio and gotten some tips, who had played the Ryder Cup there. So gotten some tips from Sergio on how to kind of handle that type of crowd at the same place. And Jose just was, I mean, incredible. His composure, his poise. Anybody that watched it, any Sun Devil that watched that had to be just so proud to have somebody like him representing us.
In terms of golf in general, you mentioned composure, poise, mentally such a difficult game. Going into that aspect of things, especially like a freshman coming into your program, how do you handle, really preaching how important it is up top and calming down? Let's say you hit a bad shot off tee.
Yeah.
Bouncing back from that and not letting it affect not only the next hole, but the next, the rest of the round.
Yeah, it's hard for all of us. These guys are under immense pressure and have high expectations. And you know what? They put so much time into this every day, several hours a day, that when you don't perform well, I mean, you should be upset. Like you put a lot of time and energy in this to not get results sometimes. So I'm pretty tolerant with that. I love the fire and I love the passion, but yes, we talk about it every day, managing it, controlling it, maximizing it. We love pressure, we embrace pressure. We walk with the players in tournaments a lot, walk with them in practice. We meet with our psychologists. It's a constant battle. Just as much as we're working on their swing or their stroke, we're working on the mind as well.
I want to ask you about being an alum here. Got your master's here just a few years ago, and what of 9 head coaches at Arizona State? I think that's an incredible number. 9 head coaches in this athletic department that are alums of this university. I mean, what does that mean for you to be able to wear that logo on your polo each and every day? And you are an alum now, and just how special is that?
There's so many parts of it that are special to me. I feel like anytime you come to a new place, and I've been here now, this is my 9th year, but when you come to a new place and you're considered an outsider, it's nice to feel like you're a part of it. So I felt like, hey, number one, if I go to school here and become an alum, that changes maybe. I mean, maybe I'll be fully accepted as one of our own, right? I also wanted to really understand what our players went through. It's easy for us to talk about what academics are like and share it with recruits and talk to our players, but now I know, like I did exactly what they did. I had to, get quizzes in before midnight and have group projects with people all over the world and, watch office hours and deal with the grades and frustration, all that stuff, and I was working on tournaments. I was working on papers and group projects while we were at tournaments just like they were. So I really love that it connected me with the players more. And do you have any that are PhDs? Any of the 9 PhDs?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that what I need to do to
I think
separate?
that's how you really separate.
Oh, it's time. It's time. But that's what's so cool. There's so many degrees, so many ways to do it here at ASU. 180,000 current students at ASU, and I was one of them. My wife actually did it at the same time. We have friends that we've encouraged to do the same. ASU makes it doable, and for me to still work full time and do what I do, but also get a degree.
Did you have any classes with any of your players at the same time?
No, I didn't. No.
That would have been an interesting little
But I
tidbit.
did have, Riggs ended up doing the same, Riggs and Blake.
Okay.
Both 2 guys that have now graduated ended up doing the same degree program that I did. So we talked about teachers and classes to take. So not, concurrently, but we had guys take the same classes I took.
You mentioned recruiting and mentioning the academics in so many ways that ASU can separate itself. But in terms of your program specifically over at Papago, I mean, it is quite the facility. If you have never seen it, folks, look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
The facilities that your program, along with the women's golf program, of course, sharing that same building. But what's that like, being able to show that off as your home when you bring someone on campus?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's awesome. Everything shows well here. It's funny, recruiting now, a lot of the visits happen in August and September. And so we're up against it a little bit there because it's so much better in January, February. If we could get recruits in January, February, we'd get every single recruit. And there are a lot of great programs and facilities around the country, but ours has a pretty unique vibe. It brings community, university, and golf all together in a unique way. We're at the a high volume public facility right in the center of it. People know it, and also the vibe there. I mean, if you just spend a little time at our facility, it's a fun place to be. Guys really like it, and recruits resonate with it. We have by far the largest Instagram in college golf, and a lot of it is pictures and videos from our facility. So every kid in the world knows about what we call the bird and wants to be a part of it.
I know you have a lot of donors and obviously a great group of alums that have done big things in the PGA and around the world who support this program, but for outsiders, tell us how people can not only help your program out, but Sun Devil Athletics as a whole.
Great, that's awesome. So I mean, everybody wants to be part of something special.
Yeah.
That's like our deepest human need, I think. And there's so many ways that people can help. Obviously, giving money to the athletic department, to scholarship program, to a specific sport or an NIL or endowment, that's massive, right? But your companies can get involved with the teams through NIL and through sponsorship agreements. Buying tickets and going to football games and basketball games is massive. Having a full stadium. Players want to play in front of a full crowd that cares. So that shows, that you're invested, and the players play well and feed off that. Going to the other sporting events is massive too. Following everybody on social media, commenting positively on social media. It doesn't really help to send a mean letter or make a rude comment in social, but man, a cool comment, a supportive comment, encouraging the teams, that's massive. Sharing a post, something like liking and sharing a post actually has an impact. So
right.
There's so many little things you can do. Attend events, get involved on social, interact, open the wallet. And mostly just talk about Sun Devil Athletics wherever you go, whoever you're with. Bring a friend along, and let's keep growing this family.
There's so many exciting things going on around campus
Yeah.
as well, with Graham Rossini coming in, of course, sitting in your very chair in the first and last segment of this show as well. I wanted to take it away from the course for a moment. You're a father of 3 girls, and I read an article in preparing for this interview. This is a really cool tidbit, folks. 14th birthday for your daughters. You let them pick anywhere in the world to go. Now, I read about a safari in South Africa, a hiking excursion in Norway, correct? Where did that idea originate from, and how special was that for you to be able to travel with your daughters?
I was actually playing golf with a donor many years ago. I think my oldest daughter was maybe 6 at the time, and he talked about taking his daughter, I think, to Disneyland or American Idol or something like that, right? And he talked about how powerful it was. And I was reading a book at the time about strong fathers and strong daughters and the role that a father has and the confidence and development of their daughters. So I'm thinking about this, and this idea came up. I'm like, I'm just gonna do this. So and I picked 14. It seemed like the age when a lot of times a daughter wants to, leave dad's side a little bit and kind of become her own. And it's felt like a crucial age. So basically, we just set at that point. And I've found that you can waste money on just about anything and regret spending it. Definitely, you can't waste money on a memorable experience like that. So my daughters, basically I said, hey, we'll go anywhere. And it became a daily conversation. We talk about it every day. Where are you going to go? And by the time they turned 14, they'd already imagined themselves taking 15, 20 different trips. We talked about them, prepared them. And then they had to settle on their 13th birthday. So not only the trip, which now still has pictures on their wall and things we talk about all the time, but the preparation for the trip, knowing that they could have control of this, that they would help plan it, that it was their choice, and that there was priority for their dad. It was one of the best decisions I've made. My youngest daughter actually went on we went on a Mediterranean cruise. Oh. So that was Italy and Greece and Turkey and what did I miss? Anyway, so yeah, it was. I'm glad you brought that up. It was, from a parenting standpoint, one of my best moves, and I think a special experience. My daughters, we all of them want to go back and redo the trip at some point because it was so memorable. Yeah.
So reading that article, I was thinking when I was 14, what I would have picked. Your daughters nailed it better. I probably would have said like Fenway Park or something.
Well, that's what I thought would happen. I didn't realize what a 14-year-old that she would be that smart. I mean, I thought it was Disneyland or Hawaii, and then they start thinking, I'm like, oh, this is going to cost me a fortune. And it did, but you know what? They chose awesome stuff, places I had never been and things I'd never done, so it was uniquely theirs. And yeah, I'd recommend it.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting, and I'm glad you got to talk about that a little bit because it's unique and a really cool thing off the course. You get going this weekend up in Washington. It's a Haile Players Championship. We already talked about Preston and Jose Le, but in terms of this year as a whole, what do you think this group can accomplish?
I love this team. We have just 7 players on the team. It's a little smaller group for us. They're all super committed. It's funny, I was just talking to Jose Le this morning. He's like, I think we should go back to morning workouts. I'd gone to afternoon workouts because the morning, he's like, no, this group can handle morning workouts. Let's do some morning workouts. And I just love that. That's kind of embodies what our team is. These guys are hard workers. They're super into it. They're very committed and talented too. We have just 1 freshman. It's an experienced team, and Preston and Jose Le leading it. I think we can be as good as anybody. We're preseason ranked number 2, and I think you can expect big things from us this year.
Yep, you heard it. Preseason number 2 for this team. Always a lot of fun to keep track of. Coach, I'm going to ask you some more questions off air about my short game, but in the meantime, thank you very much for coming and good luck this weekend.
Thanks for having me.
And we're back here on Sun Devil Extra, rejoined now by Arizona State Athletic Director Graham Rossini. We're here at the Schaefer Sports Hall of Fame today, and brings a nice opportunity to plug an upcoming Hall of Fame luncheon. That'll be Friday, October 4th. Tickets are on sale at sundevils.com and part of the homecoming festivities. That's always a great event, of course, and some great members of Sun Devil Athletics joining the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, that's always a fun celebration. I look forward to I love the history of our athletics department, and Hall of Fame weekend, you get to really dive into the vault and celebrate some incredible accomplishments. We like homecoming, we're doing it twice. So that weekend's going to be Big 12 homecoming as they bring in a number of events, and then we'll have the ASU homecoming later in the semester as well. But yeah, Friday, October 4th, we'll induct this year's class. We've got a number of standouts from John Speeney, legendary gymnastics coach. We've got a guy named Roger Detter, who, in my opinion, is what being a Sun Devil can be all about. So he was a 2-time national champion in baseball, was the captain on one of those teams as a shortstop. Also played basketball, where I think he still has a statistical record for maybe the best free throw percentage in school history, if I'm not mistaken. And then somehow in his free time ran track and field as well. So a 3-sport athlete. He's been an incredibly connected Sun Devil ever since he graduated. And so still in the market, still a lot of our events. So we'll get a chance to celebrate Roger and his family as well, and a number of others. And just the history is so rich at ASU. Yeah. A number of our sports, we're here obviously in front of the golf case. You heard from Coach Thurmond. It's just what a wonderful celebration of the success we have in all of our sports. And so that'll be a fun luncheon. We still have some tickets available online, and would certainly encourage our fans to plug into those moments.
I'm glad you corrected me. Yes, Big 12 homecoming, a couple of different homecomings. Every single weekend in the fall semester is a celebration of something, it seems.
Yes, lots to do.
Including this upcoming weekend where football will take on Mississippi State. 7:30 kickoff, so the sun will be down yet again. It's on ESPN if you can't make it or you're out of market. Also on the Sun Devil Radio Network, of course. But Coach Dillingham's been out and about talking about the student section. I know we already said second highest attendance for the opener against Wyoming. Now you have an SEC program coming in, as Scott mentioned on his little cameo as well, looking for that first ever win against an SEC team. There's a lot of hype, a lot of buzz. You have no excuses not to be here, Sun Devil Nation, but what do you think in terms of getting that SEC program in here to Tempe? What does that mean for this program?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of eyes on the SEC across college sports right now, and when you've got a program representing that conference in our stadium, it's a chance for us to show the rest of the country what we're all about. And I appreciate the fact that the coaches and the football team has really taken that charge of, when we realize that we haven't beat an SEC team, recently or ever for that matter, well, there's an opportunity. There's a chance to maybe break that mold and put us on a different path. What we noticed last weekend against Wyoming is that the crowd just makes such a big difference. I know we've already talked about that, but really challenging the students to show up in the Inferno and break a new record and be a part of that. Like, come be a part of history. Come be a part of a record student crowd. Come be a part of our first win against the SEC program. That really, I think, excites the rest of our fan base as well. And we've talked a lot about, if you have a ticket for Saturday night, use it. If you don't have a ticket, come and join us. The weather's getting better in the evenings. The team is playing incredibly entertaining football, and we all get to enjoy that moment together. And so having an energized stadium is going to be a big part of the performance that we have this weekend, I do believe.
Make no mistake about it as well. Student section is kind of like the captain of the crowd, if you will. And they
Absolutely.
were there
set the tone.
early. You know, it was an hour before kickoff and it was already packed, and I think you're exactly right. That the rest of the crowd, as they were filing in, they feel that energy, and it's so important.
They do, and even, you know, I was walking around the south part of the concourse, even in the second quarter, and there were still students coming in, and
right.
I think now that everybody's connected the way that they are, there was some sense of people in the stadium saying, hey, this is awesome, this is a blast, you need to get here. We kept the downloads open where even in-game students were downloading tickets to be here. We had to relocate them to the north end zone, position them right next to the band and the Spirit Squad, which was really cool to see. And yeah, they're the captain, they set the tone, and the way that game started, we never looked back. The energy stayed high all 4 quarters.
Yeah, water flowed in, like the dam had opened up really from the get-go. Saturday against Mississippi State as well, City of Tempe night and faculty and staff appreciation night as well. And I know you've been very vocal about what the City of Tempe means to Sun Devil Athletics and how that partnership can really grow really both entities.
For sure.
In a night to kind of honor them as well.
Well, we know there's a ton of people that live in Tempe, whether they're connected to ASU or not, and so it's a great chance for us to say, you're part of the ASU community, we want you in our stadiums and arenas to be a part of these moments with us. And so yeah, I think this is always a celebration that we enjoy. Mayor Woods, we've talked a lot about the job that he and the city manager and city council have done in terms of helping us solve for different parts of game day and making sure that it's, again, easy to get here, it's enjoyable once you arrive, safe, clean, family friendly, all those attributes, and we're just lucky to have a great partner. And so it's a small way for us to say thanks and hopefully get people who work or live around the city of Tempe into the stadium with their families and enjoy a great football game.
As we mentioned, tickets are still available, so get here.
Get them soon.
Yep, water still cheap, parking still cheap, all those things apply. The food item, alligator po' boy this
really
week.
good.
So one of these days we're gonna have to get that here. I need to try that live. I'll give you a taste test. But let's talk about the exposure. Let's say for alums across the country that can't be here on Saturday. First game on FS1 and then this weekend on ESPN, next week on the road on ESPN as well. The exposure of Sun Devil football, playing on national television, the first 3 weeks, it's huge.
It is, and we've noticed that that's one of the byproducts of our new conference affiliation right out the gate, is that just it's easier for fans to tune in. It's not a paywall. There's not a regional network behind it. This is, you know, ESPN this weekend, Fox Sports you mentioned last weekend, and just the eyes of the country can be on ASU. And I think that's a good fit for us because there are so many Sun Devils across the United States, all over North America, and making it easier to tune in. You know, a number of friends on the East Coast were saying, hey, I stayed up late to watch. It was too good of a game. And we had a conference call this morning with the rest of the Big 12 and colleagues at Central Florida and West Virginia were still tuned in. And just the fact that everybody can watch us play and it's easier to do that, it's just a great visibility and great attribute for ASU.
The beauty of a 4-time zone conference then, right? Yeah. Staying up late after dark, the colleagues also watching Sun Devil football. In terms of week 1, you know, kind of thrown into the fire in terms of the first football game and such a good crowd, but from your experience, you know, what did you hear back from fans and how do you think that first football game went, and what areas are we still looking to grow in?
Yeah, I thought it was a very fun, very important way for us to start this next chapter of Sun Devil Athletics, and really appreciate the team in athletics that was able to step up. And we've been working very hard all summer long on the starting point and a lot of the changes that we put in motion last week. And I was really proud of the game day. I was really proud of how the teams that we rely on, you know, our facilities and operations staff does an incredible job, our media relations, digital media, parking and transit, you know, security, et cetera. There's just really a team effort to go produce a game day. You've got, you know, almost 55,000 people in a building, and we haven't done that in a while. It's been 8 or 9 months since our last football game, and so to kind of shake off the cobwebs, get right back into it with the eyes of the world on us, I thought it was really important that we get out the gate strong. And there's a lot of lessons learned. I think the beauty of once you're in it, we're understanding feedback. We had a lot of communication from our fans on what they liked and what went well. We also got some really good feedback on, hey, how do we improve the Wi-Fi in different parts of the stadium? How do we really make sure that concession stands are stocked up in the right areas, that we're tightening up some of the aspects of rideshare, parking, et cetera. That's really valuable feedback. And the fact that we're getting it real time to be able to come back into a Sunday download or a Monday morning meeting, you know, obviously holiday weekend, still communicating with the team in terms of things that we want to put in motion. So this weekend, we're still making those incremental gains to be even better than we were a week ago.
Takes a village to put on a Sun Devil game day,
without a doubt. We've got a great team. Very
proud
of them.
Yeah, it was quite the show, and obviously with the team's performance, everything was amplified that much more. Looking forward now to this week ahead, Graham, I want to ask you, broadly speaking, what are you looking forward to? Obviously, we've already noted some of the events coming up. Golf, of course, getting going. You just heard from Coach Thurmond. So Many things happening this week. What are some of the things you're looking forward to most?
Yeah, golf headed up to Washington. We've heard about that. It's you blink and we're in so many sports out the gate. Cross country was going last weekend. Triathlon was underway as well. It's exciting that you've got those many, that many sports kind of right out the gate competing. And I'm also excited that we have another home football game kind of back-to-back weeks. And you mentioned the way in which we won against Wyoming and the style of football and how exciting it was. It does energize a fan base where now you don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to come back. You can come back right away. And we saw a nice spike in ticket sales over Saturday night into Sunday morning and throughout the weekend in terms of people saying, hey, this team, there could be something brewing. They seem like they're fun to watch. We want to be in the stadium to enjoy it. And we get that chance again. And again, getting people back into the spirit of the ASU community, coming back in to support these young people. And we're going to use it as a chance to recognize our soccer team on field and the start that they're having and promoting the start of their conference schedule coming up. We're going to introduce the hockey team in the first half as well because we're less than a month away from the start of hockey season now, which is hard to believe. And so finding all the different moments of the game that we can start to showcase other sports, the excitement that we have for, we had men's basketball on the field last weekend and get a chance to really talk about, we're not that far from basketball as well. It's the best time of year. I love fall. I love the temperature getting better. We know the next 8-9 months are why you live in Arizona to begin with, and so just very eyes wide open and excited about where we're at in the semester already.
Things are looking up around campus. It certainly seems. We keep talking about that buzz, but it's going to continue growing and growing and growing with time. And after a great weekend that was, a fun weekend ahead certainly. No show next week with football being on the road in a short week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for more here on Sun Devil Extra. As always, Graham, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Braiden.
I'm Braiden Bell saying so long from Tempe, Arizona.